Over the summer, I started this series where I analyzed the maps of 2004's Star Wars Battlefront. I started off with Bespin platforms, one of my personal favorites, and since then we have covered 9 out of the 17 maps found in this game. And since we have now officially passed that halfway mark, it seems like a perfect time to start looking at the other half of the planets represented in this game. With only a handful of exceptions, every planet in the original Battlefront had 2 different battlegrounds. So today, I wanted to look at the other half of the very first planet I talked about, Bespin Cloud City. Despite being home to the climax of Empire Strikes Back, Bespin, and I think specifically Cloud City, is a location I sometimes feel gets forgotten about. It doesn't show up in other Star Wars media nearly as frequently as some planets like Kashyyyk, Tatooine, Hoth, Coruscant, and others. Not to say it never appears. It features in both the PS2 version of The Force Unleashed as well as both of EA's later Battlefront games, one getting a whole DLC themed around it. But it doesn't have near the representation of some other planets. Despite this, Cloud City has remained one of the cornerstones of the original Battlefront. While not always at the top of everyone's favorite list, it's a map almost universally loved. One of the first that comes to mind when discussing this game. But why is it so well remembered? Due to some intricate gameplay elements? Strong environmental storytelling? I'd actually argue none of the above. It's one of the most straightforward maps within this game. And I think that's where its strength lies. So let's take a moment to appreciate those strengths, any weaknesses, and the overall design of this settlement in the sky. The section of the city we play through is largely broken up into 3 distinct areas: a large courtyard, a series of upper walkways, and the carbon freezing chamber. There are also a handful of miscellaneous buildings along the east and west sides of the map to give the city a bit more depth before hitting that boundary. The map has 6 command posts. On the left-hand side are the rear entrance and the rear flank, which are shared by the Rebel Alliance and the Republic. On the right-hand side is the Walkway and the forward flank, used by the Empire and the CIS. The last 2 posts, those being the Courtyard and the Chamber, start out as neutral. This gives the map a sort of box shape, with the upper paths forming 3 sides and the building hosting the chamber being the 4th, with the open courtyard set within these confines. Due to 3 out of the 4 available spawns being up there, your fight will most likely start on these upper paths. It is a straight shot from the rear flank to the walkway. This hallway passes through the top of a building at its center, providing a covered area. The rest of the path is open-aired. Nothing blocks this path, meaning you can immediately start shooting your enemies as soon as they spawn in, and they will likely do the same. But despite being a long interrupted stretch, there's still a decent amount of cover to be found here. When on the top floor of the center building, a handful of divots allow you to safely avoid return fire. You can either peek out and continue a volley, or take advantage of certain class abilities, like the Marksman's Orbital Strike, which can clear out the open stretch of walkway before reaching the enemy post, so long as your volley doesn't get blocked by a skyscraper. 2 windows also sit at either side of the building, providing another position to attack or defend from. Assuming you came from the rear flank and have pushed on to capture the walkway, the next area you will encounter is the top of this tower. The path encircles it, giving you 2 options for getting by. The left path, which faces inwards towards the rest of the level, is typically the more frequented option due to its ability to serve as a great overlook, providing support either down below or letting you shoot back along the pathway you just traveled. Once on the other side, you have another small open sidewalk, a ramp which provides you a chance to descend to the ground level, or you can push on to the last post, the forward flank. Here you will find another room much like those you fought through already. Grenades are a great way to clear the area at any of these posts. You will have to contend with respawning enemies, and these are fairly cramped rooms. The good thing is these rooms are so small that you can fairly easily watch the whole of the area. When a new unit appears, you have about a split second where your enemy is stationary and can't do anything. Take advantage of that hesitation and the room will eventually be yours. Although it is significantly harder to survive if you get unlucky and find multiple opponents respawning all at once. There is one more part of this walkway I haven't discussed. If you head north from the rear flank, you've got another stretch of causeway leading to a building on the northwest section of the map. That building diverts the path into two ramps, both leading to ground level, one closer to the center in the courtyard, and the other down towards the final starting command post, the rear entrance. This command post is tucked very far out of the way, deep within the alleys and shadows of other structures. But what is it a rear entrance to? Well, if you find this doorway, it leads you down a tunnel where you will pass through interiors seemingly based off the halls and chasms where Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader dueled during their iconic encounter. At the end of this route is the first of our contested command post, most recognizable room in Cloud City, the Carbon Freezing Chamber. Everything you expect to see is here, from the distinctive orange and blue lighting to the raised platform where the process takes place. Fall in, and you unsurprisingly die immediately. A few different passages lead out of this room, some of which circle back to the pit leading to the rear entrance, but the main hallways will take you straight up to the front entrance of the building, spitting you out just before the courtyard. The courtyard itself is a tiered depression. Its command post is actually located in the very back of the area, making it a defensible location just by distance. But there are also several turrets found along the courtyard's edge, making this a pretty hot kill zone should they all be active at once. With the map layout established, we can now talk strategy. Not that there's too much to say. Some maps within Battlefront require a specific game plan in order to win. Think about how last time when I talked about Yavin Arena, control over the arena itself was the key to victory. Now Cloud City certainly has strategies that make victory far easier, but there is no do this and you've automatically won move. The plan you'll probably default to is the most obvious tactic of taking the entire upper walkway. By controlling all the command posts on this level, you have effectively surrounded the map and hold all the high ground. And Star Wars fans know all about high ground. These upper balconies are a sniper's dream. Almost every position gives you overwatch on the entire map. The simplest move is to shoot down onto the courtyard, especially if it belongs to the enemy or is currently being attacked. And this will likely happen because if you focus on all the walkways, then the enemy will likely get the courtyard in return. But now, they're basically fish in a barrel, allowing you to pick them off one by one. But you could also shoot at other elevated positions. If you've yet to take the whole sidewalk, or if the enemy managed to retake any ground, you can still cross-map them. It's especially easy against computer players, since most of them aren't willing to try a shot that far. But sniping alone won't win you the match. Neither will sole ownership of the upper decks. Like I said, the courtyard and the chamber start off as neutral posts. And by focusing solely on the walkway, you will likely lose one, if not both of them, to the enemy. But the courtyard is surrounded by sniping positions, I hear you say. While yes, you are in a pretty dangerous spot down there, you are just as capable of fighting back down in the courtyard. Ignoring the fact that a marksman on the ground can just as easily shoot up, need I remind you that there are 5 gun emplacements down here. While the turrets may lack a sniper's free range of motion, they more than make up for that in firepower. These cannons can be used to blast away pests no matter where they come from. Yes, the trade-off is you yourself become a stationary target, but there are 4 other turrets to support you and also serve as alternative targets for your enemy, meaning your survivability is increased. You can also turn your barrel towards the ground troops in front of the courtyard, those spilling out from the carbon freezing chamber. And speaking of, this section of city here, almost dead center of the map, is perhaps the biggest hot zone. Both the rear entrance and forward flank feature pathways leading down to this area. Not to mention units who may come up from the courtyard or the chamber. The ramps leading down also provide an excellent location for more snipers, but even regular infantry and heavies to shoot down and impact the battle. The final area then is the carbon freezing building. This facility doesn't tend to see much fighting, but it serves as a great support post. The central hallway leads straight up in front of the courtyard, meaning quick access to the battle. And while most of the hallways and corridors inside the building loop back on themselves, it can provide a chance to approach the path from a different direction, or catch an attacker by surprise, especially if you hold the carbon freezing chamber and the enemy holds the rear entrance. It allows this area right here to become a small little battleground, and one where you can push the advantage if you own the chamber due to its access to this little balcony. But even with all this, Chamber is a great example of one other subtle strength this map has. Should you ever find yourself stuck in the carbon freezing chamber, which is admittedly a rare occurrence, you can travel down this side path which puts you back by the rear entrance, giving you a chance to capture this command post and begin the task of retaking the upper walkways. Something I noticed when playing Cloud City is that you're never truly stuck. You can use that tunnel to escape the chamber. Or, a less obvious approach, when you're pinned down in the courtyard, you can utilize the far sides of the map and escape that way. Like I said, the far east and west are composed of buildings and roads that are rarely traveled by the AI, but that can allow you to escape and flank one of the other posts. Like coming at the rear entrance from the southeast, or sneaking up from the forward flank's ramp. There are several different routes available to you, even those not immediately obvious. And that's not even mentioning the Republic and Empire's jetpack classes, who can quickly abandon or join the walkway thanks to their mobility and lack of fall damage. Now visually, Cloud City is about what you would expect. The familiar idea of skyscrapers, but with the appropriate cloud-like color scheme, and the unique architecture that defines this settlement. The sky is filled with that stunning mixture of warm oranges and light purples which make up the iconic twilight we think of when we think Bespin. Between the original and modern ports, the visuals are almost identical, just cleaned up a little bit. In fact, I actually prefer the newer look since it retains the spirits of the original design, just without the far less muddy textures. And oddly enough, I feel the same way about Cloud City in the movies. This is more of a side tangent, but I vastly preferred the visuals of this planet in the special edition of the Star Wars films. Far more windows were added, along with extended flight shots which highlight the beauty of this mining world. It adds this serene feeling, like this is a paradise where the heroes will truly be safe, which only makes the Empire's reveal all the more frightening. Speaking of, we never actually see any full-blown war on this planet, so what is the in-universe reason for the fighting scene on this map? Well, in the historical campaign, Cloud City starts off with a few movie clips, namely Lando giving an evacuation order before more Imperial troops arrive. As a kid, I always imagined that instead of playing as the true Rebel Alliance, you were playing as the locals who began fighting back in an order to escape. However, nothing in the level description really implies this. In fact, it really seems as if you are a rebel cell who just happen to be on the planet and are capitalizing on the opportunity. It even makes mention of capturing the Tabana gas generators for the Rebel Alliance's cause. But is there a story on this map, as seems to be the case with many other maps found within this game? I think so. And as usual, the command posts serve as context clues. 2 posts are listed as flanks. Well, then what are they flanking? It didn't seem obvious to me at first, since they are at odd positions, with the rear flank being next to literally nothing, due to it being on the walkways. Is it just referring to these corridors, like they both flank the walkway command post? Maybe, but that just didn't feel right. Then I thought just a little bit bigger. The rear flank can also lead straight to the rear entrance, which sure enough is the perfect spot to flank the carbon freezing chamber. And by following the ramp from the forward flank, where do you end up? Right by the main entrance to the same building, at a perfect angle to flank its opening. This all implies both sides are fighting for control of the carbon freezing chamber. One army trying a direct assault while another tries sneaking in from behind. Perhaps the rebels want to learn the secrets of what happened to Captain Solo, or maybe this room is just a small part of the overall building, which may be some sort of administration tower, with control of it leading to control over the city and its Tabana gas. And on the topic of interesting details, let's look at the trivia for this map. Starting with the fact that this is the fourth and final map we've looked at, which was also added to Battlefront 2 as part of the Xbox Live patch. For anyone who's forgotten or is not familiar, the others were Yavin Arena and the two Renvarn maps, Citadel and Harbor. As such, a handful of these facts are going to actually have to do with the Battlefront 2 version of Cloud City. A minor one is the fact that, while most everything stayed the same, there are a few very minor geometry changes in Battlefront 2. The most notable is that certain parts of the forward flank walkway have been extended, with circular platforms rather than the very narrow walkways from the original game. The most well-known detail on this map is the fact that, yes, you can actually see the carbon freezing chamber in action. Every few minutes, a claw will reach down from the ceiling and pull up a frozen slab of carbonite with Han Solo inside. Or maybe clones of Han Solo. It can pull them up pretty frequently and repeatedly. However, you can only see this detail in the Galactic Civil War era of the map. During the Clone Wars, the claw stays in place, never retrieving a frozen victim. And curiously enough, though admittedly through very limited testing, the carbon freezing mechanism doesn't seem to work at all in Battlefront 2, regardless of era. I mean, come on, Battlefront 2, I go to bat for you all the time, you gotta give me something here. Obviously, I didn't play much of the BS2 version very long, and I only ever tested this on the Classic Collection, so it may still work on the original Xbox version. But while on the topic of Classic Collection bugs, the Battlefront Wiki states that the 5 Courtyard turrets do not show up when specifically playing as the Galactic Civil War on BF2's Conquest mode. I tested it, and yes, this is true. The turrets can be built in Clone Wars, but don't show up at all in the original trilogy. This is a problem exclusive to the Classic Collection, though, as they are present in the Xbox release. Personally, I think it's related to the Capture the Flag game mode, since the turrets are always absent in that version of the map. Speaking of, Cloud City is the only Battlefront 2 map to feature a different set of heroes between game modes. During normal Conquest matches, the Republic and CIS get Aayla Secura and Asajj Ventress as their heroes, while the Rebellion and Empire get Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, respectively. However, when playing Capture the Flag, Aayla Secura is swapped out for Kit Fisto. Ventress stays the same. However, in the Imperial era, both heroes are changed, with Han Solo and Boba Fett replacing the lightsaber wielders. The best part of this is how you can recreate Empire Strikes Back by throwing Han Solo into the carbon freezing chamber. And that's just about it. There's really not much to say in conclusion. Bespin Cloud City remains one of the best designed maps in this game, despite not featuring some of Battlefront 1's most iconic elements. When talking about people's favorite parts of the original Battlefront, one of the most common elements is the mixed warfare. Larger maps feature tanks and vehicles, some even feature starfighters thrown into the mix as well. The Cloud City doesn't need any of that to be memorable. It focuses solely on the different classes and their strengths. And depending on what part of the map you're in or what you're trying to accomplish, everyone can shine, from long-range marksmen to close-up scattergun users, heavy-hitting explosives to mechanical experts. Even the factions are more balanced. I truly believe the original Battlefront's biggest flaw was the advantages and favoritism some maps showed to certain sides, making play at higher difficulty far too unfair. But I had no problem winning matches on hard mode with nothing but skill, aggression, and reasonable strategy. The only faction who struggled a bit on hard mode was the clones, but, I mean, come on, they're always going to have a hard time against the Separatists. If you ask me, I think Cloud City hits the core of the Battlefront series. The appeal of these games is playing as a nameless soldier within one of the many Star Wars armies. No vehicles, no force, no gimmicks, just a good blaster at your side and a chance to shine. So many different tactics and routes are available to those willing to try them here. The way the map integrates elevation in a way no other map does. In fact, as I try to think how to describe Cloud City, the word perfect keeps coming to mind. Still, I don't think this is a completely perfect map, but it does perfectly accomplish what it set out to do. It is a densely packed urban warfare environment that is tailor-made for infantry fighting. And for me, it's hard to see Cloud City as anything other than an intricately designed masterpiece within Star Wars Battlefront. But what are your thoughts on Cloud City? Was it one of your favorites? Was it one you always liked? Or is there something about it that you dislike? I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised at just how much I enjoyed coming back to this level. I mean, I always liked Cloud City, but I felt like falling in love with it all over again. I really think this is one of the sleeper hits within this game. And like I said before, I've checked out some of the other maps within Star Wars Battlefront. Actually, most of them at this point. I'll link that playlist in the description below. And comment with what map you want me to cover next. There's only a handful left, and there's a few I'm saving for the end because I know they're very highly requested. But we've still got about 8 more maps to go through. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed the video, then leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more. But whatever you do, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.